back to Miss Cindy's kitchen. It's been a little bit since we've taken you back into our kitchen because life's been a little crazy. We had our 2019 vehicle have a blown transmission, and apparently there's been at least 12 other cases of the exact same vehicle doing the exact same thing. So don't buy a Dodge Grand Caravan. We've spent the better part of this month dealing with this issue, and it's just way too much. So anyway, now that we have Thanksgiving and we have gotten past Thanksgiving, y'all are probably wondering what to do with all of your jack-o'-lanterns. So the ones that are not cut, of course, you can cut up and roast to feed to your four-legged friends, be they small ones or big ones. Dahlia is currently waiting to go outside to play. So anyway, we're going to cut this up and we're going to roast it at 350 degrees. And what I've done so far is I've gotten the cookie sheets lined with some heavy-duty foil. Regular foil will work also, and then sprayed with nonstick spray. Let me make sure the oven's on. Just going to cook it at 350 degrees. Now this is kind of awkward to cut up a pumpkin, so bear with me. But a friend of mine gave me a whole bunch of pumpkins, and I thought, you know what? We have a 60-pound dog with a bottomless pit appetite, and pumpkin is really good for dogs. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to roast them and feed them to the dogs. And if you live near a zoo, where we have a place near us called the California Living Museum, and one of the local ranches that produces a lot of pumpkins for the holiday gives all their leftover pumpkins to that zoo to feed their large animals. So rather than go into compost, you can feed them to your dogs or roast them and make soup, something of the sort. So you're going to want to make sure you have a sharp knife, because a sharp knife is safer to use than a dull knife, because you're less likely to have the knife skitter and get cut. But if you by chance slip, it's much easier to repair a nice neat cut than it is a jagged cut. So anyway, that reminds me of a story I heard about this guy who went to the ER with his hand bandaged, and because of how it looked, they didn't really ask how it happened. They just said, was it a bagel or an avocado? Because even the most intelligent people among us still do the, well, I'm just going to cut it in my hand, and all of a sudden, they're going off to the ER. So, anyway, you can't fix stupid. You can just take it to the ER and hopefully get patched up well.
So it's always basically best to be careful when you're on a knife.
Yes. So that's what I'm doing. I'm cutting off this big, huge stem end.
And you're just...
I'm just working the knife through to get it cut. Nothing fancy. Kind of like you would have the stem end cut off like you're making a jack-o'-lantern. And we don't peel it until after it's cooked, because the skin will slip off much easier after it's cooked. Ugh. I don't know about you all, but my hands are tired after all the cooking I've done the past few days.
It was good.
Yeah. We had a turkey dinner for Thanksgiving, and we had a ham dinner the night before. As I figured we're all home for a few days, may as well have a couple of nice dinners and then have leftovers the rest of the time. So, let's see if I got that off. Woo!
Oh, wow.
Success! And what you can do with the pumpkin guts is take off, you can just take it off, and then if you put all the flesh into a bowl and then fill it with water, you can easily separate the membranes from the seeds. So I'm just taking a shortcut doing that. So anyway, the other day we roasted a pumpkin, and I separated all the seeds, and I dried them out, and now I'm going to roast them eventually. So anyway, we'll park that aside for now. And then I'm just gonna cut this pumpkin in half and then cut it in little wedges. Because the finished pumpkin is similar to butternut squash. As you can tell, this is kind of slippery and hard to deal with. There, that works. Ugh. Alright, I'm gonna cut it in half. Always keep your knife pointed away from where your hands are.
Oh, wow.
So, it looks just like your average hard squash. And that's essentially what pumpkin is. It's kind of in the same family of squashes as like an acorn squash or a butternut. And on one of the ones I fixed, it had, the flesh was kind of stringy, kind of like a spaghetti squash. And if you look closely, you can see the fibers are, they're a bunch of little teeny tiny circles. So the flesh will be a little stringy, which is why this one isn't really suited for baking. However, it would be great for roasting, and I think you could even make soup out of it. And I'm using my melon baller to scrape out the flesh.
Wow, that actually does a really good job.
Yeah, I discovered this when I was doing this last week.
And you know, the thing for years, I was just using a plain old spoon to try
Yeah.
to get all that. And that looks like it just really just scoops it out with almost no
Yeah,
effort.
you just kind of got to figure out what tools can do double duty. So we're just going to take all the guts out. The whole idea in life is to work smarter, not harder. Although some people, they wouldn't find a way to work smarter if you paid them. So
Yep.
they're going to do what they're going to do.
Yep.
Because that's how they've always done it and they don't want to change.
Right.
Alright. So just scrape out the guts. Because you can see how look at this flesh. You can see it's kind of stringy.
Yeah.
I think you could almost use this in the same fashion as a spaghetti squash because of the way the flesh is. And I think on a future episode we might just try it. Just for the heck of it. As you know, you'll never know if you don't try it. And I would guess that a soup would probably be good for a savory soup. The kind of pumpkins you use for pies and baked goods are the sugar pie pumpkins. And we do have a couple of those on hand. Because my friend has a combined 6 kids. Hers and her late sister she's helping raise. And
Well, we did make that. I mean, in fact, one of the first desserts we made, I think, was a pumpkin soup.
yeah, that was with canned pumpkin.
That's true.
Yeah, so anyway. So now I'm going to use the heavier knife. See where the stem is. This is a very large pumpkin, as you can tell. So I'm just going to cut it in little wedges and then place it flesh down on the baking sheet.
Okay.
Because what I found worked well last time is after it was cut and cooled, I could just basically peel back the flesh and the skin would come off. And that can go in the compost, or you can feed the remains to your chickens or pigs if you have a real ranch of sorts. Ugh. A lot of people are now raising chickens, so we have a lot of backyard farmers. The goal is to get 1/2 on each baking sheet. It may or may not fit, but we'll see.
Now, this is something you discovered without a recipe, right?
Right. Just using a little common sense and inquisitiveness. It's like, will this work? Yep, it works. So, all right. I think it's time to take a knife sharpening break. Because sometimes when your knife was working really hard, you need to stop and sharpen it. And this is one that's the ceramic with the rods crisscrossed.
Huh.
I've also heard you can use the bottom of a coffee mug too to sharpen knives.
The bottom of a coffee mug?
Yeah. Like the rough edges. Like the ceramic where it's a little bit rough.
Huh.
You know, it's one of those things you see on the internet, but it may actually work. This is just really thick pumpkin. Alright. See if I can get this all on one sheet. It probably won't fit, but it'll be close. So we can take bets at this point. Will it or won't it all fit? I think it will. Yay!
Just barely.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of pumpkin. Ugh. So now, we're going to do the same thing with this one. So once we clean this one up and get it ready to go in the oven, we'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. So make sure you like and subscribe and share to your friends and give us your feedback, and we'll be right back with you. Alright, and now I've gotten both halves cut up. I ended up cutting them into smaller chunks so they would lay flatter. And it looks like I'm a little bit out of space, so I'm probably just going to microwave these pieces because I microwave potatoes and sweet potatoes all the time, so this would probably work just as well.
Alright.
So anyway, we're going to put this in the oven at 350 for about 45 minutes to an hour. Just keep an eye on it, and when it starts to soften, it will be done. And what I did on the prior batch is I covered it up with foil so it kind of steamed and softened, and that kind of helped the skin loosen from it. So when I went to peel it, it was easier to peel. So while this is baking, make sure you like and subscribe and share to your friends, and we'll be back with you soon. Alright, and our squash, or our pumpkin, is actually cooked for probably about an hour and a half at 350, and for the last 10 minutes or so I cooked it at 400, trying to get it to hurry up. So anyway, it's ready to come out of the oven.
It almost, I mean, it weirdly enough, it almost looks like cornbread.
It's kind of that color.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let it cool. I'm going to cover it up with some foil. And then that'll let the remaining heat in it, doesn't matter if it's not completely covered, let the remaining heat in the squash kind of reflect back, and the steam will kind of loosen the skin. So I'm going to let this sit for probably at least another hour just to let it the skin soften. And then you'll be amazed at how easy it is to pull it apart and cut it. Because basically once it cools, the skin will start to naturally separate. And you can take it like a deck of cards and just kind of bend it back and peel the flesh from the skin. And then put the chunks of pumpkin flesh on a cutting board and then chop them up. And then you could use them to feed to your pets, or put in the fridge and possibly make a stew or a soup out of. So anyway, we will be back with you soon and show you the finished product. Alright, and we're back, and I let it sit for about 2 hours while I went and did other stuff around the house. So it's completely cooled off and it's kind of sweated. So the skin will be pretty easy to come off. And on the other one, I just kind of peeled it back. But here, I'm just going to use the knife and peel it. And as you can tell, I have a very hungry dog behind me.
She loves her pumpkin.
Yes. And so I take the chunks and then I just cut it into pieces. And it's kind of nice bite-sized treats for the dog. So, look, Dahlia. Look. Sit. Sit. No, sit down. Nom 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 nom.
And you gotta get
And
one for
little
Pepper.
wants one too. They love their squash. So, instead of buying your dogs toxic treats from the store, make them some homemade food. And you're recycling your pumpkin, and you're making your dog very happy in the process. So, you can compost your skins. Maddie just not recently started a garden, so she's composting. So you'll end up with these nice little chunks of pumpkin flesh, and your dog will be drooling over them. Nom, 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 nom. So anyway, thank you again for joining us, and this will give you an idea of what to do with all the pumpkins you've accumulated. So before you're ready to move on into your Christmas decorations, put your pumpkin to good use. Make a treat for your dog. So anyway, thank you for joining us, and have a great evening, and make sure you've liked and subscribed and share this video, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen. To get more recipes like this one, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications when new videos are uploaded. Share it out to your friends, family, neighbors, and leave us a comment to let us know how this recipe worked for you. And don't forget to hit that like button. Again, thank you for watching Miss Cindy's Kitchen.